Clara jolted awake as her phone buzzed next to the bed. She squinted at the screen. A notification from her pet camera app. Strange. She remembered clearly that she'd left the camera mounted inside the break room of the beauty clinic, fixed to the top corner of a shelf, facing the massage bed. The clinic had closed at 8 p.m. sharp. Everything had been locked. No one could possibly be inside at this hour. She opened the app. The screen lit up, a soft, bluish hue from the night vision mode blanketed the room. The chair, the bed, the counter, everything was still. Silent. Just like always. But then, in the bottom left corner of the frame, a figure began to emerge from the shadows. Clara held her breath. She zoomed in. A woman. Sitting on the massage bed. Her back turned to the camera. Wearing a white spa robe. Long, soaking wet hair draped over her shoulders, like she'd just stepped out of the shower. She didn't move. She just sat there, still, unnerving. And then she turned her head. A crooked smile stretched across her face, so wide it reached her ears. Her lips were smeared red, like lipstick painted in blood. Her skin was ghostly pale. Her eyes, pure white. Lifeless. Clara's breath caught in her throat. But that wasn't the worst part. Behind the woman, more figures started to appear. 1. Then 2. Then 3. All women. All wearing white robes. All standing. All staring straight into the camera. Smiling. Clara dropped her phone. One thing was clear. This wasn't the first time something strange had happened at the clinic. But this time, something wasn't just watching them. It was performing. And Clara. She was the only unwilling audience member. Tanjong Pagar is one of Singapore's rare intersections of heritage and modernity. Nestled among rows of colonial-era shophouses and towering glass office buildings. The district dances between contrasts, bustling by day, yet oddly still once night falls. Tucked deep in a narrow alley, between two cafes that cater to the weekday office crowd, sits a beauty clinic with no signage. Its storefront is almost invisible unless you already know where to look. A thick pane of mirrored glass reflects the streetlights. Inside, the space is pristine. Minimal to the point of sterile. No music. No chatter. Just quiet, deliberate, constant quiet. This clinic offers high-end aesthetic services, IPL hair removal, cold laser skin rejuvenation, dermatologist-grade facials. Most clients are white-collar professionals or expats, those with minimalist tastes and a willingness to pay for results. The first floor houses the reception and main treatment rooms. Step through the glass door and you're immediately greeted by the scent of jasmine oil and white tea, pleasant, yet slightly unfamiliar. Each treatment room is separated by sliding doors and sheer white curtains. Everything is designed to exude calm, privacy, and luxury. But the deeper you walk into the clinic, the less serene it feels. A narrow hallway leads down to the basement level, where the staff lounge and rest area are tucked away. Most clients don't even know this part exists. Cold white walls. Ceiling lights tinted faint blue. The temperature down there is always just a bit lower. There's an old TV in the corner. A few aging massage chairs that double as nap spots. On one of the cabinets sits a small Buddha statue, unfinished, missing its eyes. Under the dim lights, it somehow seems to stare, even without a face. No one ever says the place is haunted. There are no public rumors. Everything seems normal. Quiet. But if you've ever been alone there after closing, if you've ever heard water running in an empty room, or felt a sudden chill as you pass down that hallway, you might understand why some of the staff have changed. They speak less. They move fast. They never linger. And no one ever wants to be the last one out. The first, and also the longest-standing member of the team, was Clara Lim, the operations manager. 30 years old. Meticulous to the point of being suffocating, at times. Clara wasn't the overly sweet type, but she wasn't one to shout, either. She managed everything with silence, precision, and an almost obsessive sense of discipline. To her, even a misplaced serum bottle or a slightly crooked bedsheet was worth correcting. She rarely smiled, rarely spoke more than necessary. Yet every staff member respected her, because when things went wrong, Clara was always the first to step in. She'd cover shifts, stay late, handle complaints and crises on behalf of everyone. But that also meant, she was usually the last one to leave the clinic. And sometimes, she was the only one left after closing time. The second was Jasmine Ng, 32. A senior technician and the second longest member of the team. Jasmine was sharp-tongued, brutally honest, with a hint of sarcasm that somehow made her even more likable. She was quick, skilled, and remarkably intuitive, especially when dealing with difficult clients. To Clara, Jasmine was the indispensable right hand. They weren't close in the traditional sense, no late-night heart-to-hearts or emotional coffee breaks. But the way they understood each other through glances and subtle gestures kept the clinic running like a well-oiled machine. And then there was Ami Tan, 22, the newest intern. A final-year student at a private aesthetics academy in Singapore, Ami was timid, soft-spoken, always bowing slightly when she greeted someone. She tried so hard to be agreeable, it was almost painful to watch. But that quality made her oddly endearing. Everyone had once been the new kid, and Clara often spent extra time mentoring her. Though Ami wasn't yet fast or confident, she had exceptionally gentle hands, perfect for relaxation massages and deep cleansing treatments that required a delicate touch. 3 women. 3 very different personalities. And together, they ran a small, quiet beauty clinic tucked away in the belly of the city. In the beginning, things were seamless. They rotated shifts smoothly. Clients came and went steadily. Everything followed a calm, predictable rhythm, until one week, the numbers suddenly dropped. Not to 0. But low enough that the schedule had to change. Instead of working together, they began taking shifts. One would handle the morning clients. One would cover the afternoon. One would clean and lock up at night. That's when things began to shift. Clara was the first to cover the late shift. Then Jasmine. Then Ami. And one by one, each of them experienced something strange. No one said anything right away. Because at first, it was just a feeling. A sudden chill. A faint drip. A breeze across the neck, even though the AC was off. Small things. Easy to dismiss. Until they started happening more. And louder. And darker. They all knew. Something had changed in the clinic. And it wasn't just the drop in foot traffic. That Thursday evening, rain had just passed through. The streets of Tanjong Pagar still held the thick dampness of stormwater and lingering heat. The wind rattled the glass door with soft taps, the leaves outside trembling as it passed. The clinic had just closed for the night. Clara was the one on the final shift. As always, she saw the last client out, walked them to the door, locked it behind them, and dimmed the reception lights. Routine. Clara was used to being the last one. She always double-checked everything: machines, lights, beds, cameras, locks. It was second nature. But that night, as she reached to unplug the towel steamer, she heard it. Drip. At first, she thought she imagined it. The sound was faint, but unmistakable in the silence. Drip. Drip. It sounded like someone had just washed their hands and forgotten to turn off the faucet. She paused. Listened again. Then followed the sound down the hallway. It led her to room 3. Near the end of the left corridor. The most isolated room in the clinic. Seldom used. Always colder than the rest. She slid the door open quietly. No one inside. Lights off. But the air. It felt wrong. The mirror was fogged up, as though someone had just taken a hot steam treatment. The room was oddly humid. Clara switched on the lights. The ceramic sink sat under the wall mirror. The faucet, tightly shut. No leak. No water. But the sound of dripping still echoed in her mind. Like an auditory afterimage. She turned toward the mirror. And froze. In the center of the glass. Amid the mist. A single handprint. Small. Faint. But unmistakable. Someone had touched the mirror from the inside. Clara stood still, staring at the reflection. The room behind her was empty. According to the records, the last client to use this room had finished hours ago. No steam. No water. No reason for the mirror to fog. No one to leave a handprint. She raised her hand to wipe the mirror. The condensation cleared. But the handprint didn't fade. It clung to the glass. Like it had been burned in from the other side. Clara felt a chill snake down her spine. Her logical mind scrambled for answers. Maybe someone had left the water running and turned it off later. Maybe it was an old print she never noticed. Maybe the humidity in the air was enough to trigger fogging. She repeated these explanations in her head like a mantra. But as she stepped out of the room, she turned back, just once. And for reasons she couldn't explain. She knew. She wasn't the only one who had been standing in that room tonight. That Saturday morning, appointments were light. Clara handed the shift to Ami earlier than usual. She had a private meeting to attend. Jasmine was off that day. So Ami was the only one on duty. She was a little nervous, but agreed to cover the morning shift. It wasn't her first time working solo, and Clara had already walked her through everything step by step. The routine was simple. From morning until noon, only 2 clients showed up, both regulars coming in for quick, light treatments. By a little past 1 p.m., the clinic had gone completely still again. Ami tidied up the treatment room, then headed downstairs to the basement lounge with her lunch. The lower level was always cooler than the ground floor. The recessed ceiling lights gave off a faint bluish glow, soft, almost hypnotic. Ami turned on the old TV and settled into the massage chair tucked in the corner, what the staff jokingly called the boss throne, since it was larger and more cushioned than the others. She didn't know if it was exhaustion or the lack of sleep catching up with her. But she drifted off quickly. That nap, however, wasn't normal. She didn't dream. But she wasn't quite awake, either. It felt like her body had been drained of all energy, pinned down by its own weight, unmoving, even though she was fully aware of her surroundings. Her ears buzzed faintly. Her eyes were open. But her limbs refused to move. Then came footsteps. Soft. Slow. Measured. A shadow entered her field of vision, just barely, from the edge. Near the shelf beside the old TV. A woman. Wearing a white spa robe. Long hair cascading down. Her face, hidden. The figure moved closer. 1 step. Another. Each step light, like gliding. Then. She leaned down. Right beside Ami's ear. And whispered something, in Thai. Ami didn't understand the words. But the voice, sharp as a blade of wind, repeated the same sounds over and over. Like an ancient chant. Her scalp tingled. Her entire body trembled under an icy layer of unseen frost. She wanted to scream. To move. But she was locked in place. As if tied down by invisible ropes. The whisper grew closer. She could feel the breath against her cheek. A cold, metallic scent, like cut fingernails, or wet hair left to rot. And then, a hand gripped her wrist. Ami screamed. The sound echoed across the basement. She jolted upright. The massage chair creaked back slightly under the sudden movement. The TV was still playing, some Thai game show. The lights were the same. Nothing out of place. Except, on her wrist, right where the grip had been, was a faint bruise. 5 small, fingertip-sized marks. Barely visible. But real enough to make her shake. Tears welled up. She grabbed her phone and called Clara. Her voice cracked and trembled so badly that Clara immediately cancelled her meeting and rushed back to the clinic. After hearing Ami recount what happened, Clara said nothing. But in her heart, she knew. She had felt it too. Just days ago, she had stood alone in room 3 and experienced something her logic couldn't explain. They didn't know what it was. But it was clear now. Something was living in the basement. Ami couldn't calm down. She curled up on the couch near the reception desk, hands shaking, mumbling just one thing over and over. I saw it. It whispered, right next to my ear. Clara didn't ask many questions. She simply poured Ami a glass of water, drew the curtains closed, and gently told her to rest. But inside, Clara's mind was spinning. This wasn't just a weird feeling anymore. What Ami had described was vivid. Detailed. Too specific to ignore. And more chillingly, it matched everything Clara had sensed in room 3. The presence. The chill. That unplaceable smell. Clara returned to the front desk and pulled up the security feed from the basement lounge. There was a tiny camera she had installed a week earlier, mainly to keep an eye on the stray cat the staff secretly let in during breaks. She opened the camera's desktop app. Rewound the footage to between 1 p.m. and 2 p.m., the window when Ami had napped. She fast-forwarded at high speed, scanning for motion. Everything looked normal at first. Ami entered. She ate her lunch. Sat quietly. Then climbed into the chair, hugged a cushion, and dozed off. 10 minutes passed. Nothing unusual. Then, the camera caught the moment she jolted awake. And right then, something flickered across the mirror. The mirror that faced the massage chair. Clara froze. Paused the video. Rewound. Slowed it down. Zoomed in. There. On the surface of the mirror. A shape. A figure. Faint. Almost imperceptible. But undeniably human. A woman's silhouette. Long hair. White robe. Head tilted. As if staring down at Ami. Clara stopped breathing. In the main frame, there was no one. But in the mirror. That shape appeared in just one frame. And vanished. She replayed it 5 times. Each time, her skin crawled deeper. It wasn't just that the shadow appeared. It was the way it leaned down. Like it was whispering. Right beside Ami's face. Clara sat still for a long time. None of the clinic's security footage had ever shown anything like this. But this was too clear. Too precise. Not a glitch. Not a trick of light. Just then, from behind the counter, Ami appeared. Her voice was raspy, but steadier now. Clara. I don't know if I was dreaming or awake. But that thing. It stood right next to me. I could feel its breath. Clara didn't answer. She just turned the screen toward Ami. Paused on the frame showing the reflection in the mirror. Ami leaned in. Seconds passed. Then her lips began to tremble. "That's it," she whispered. "That's her face. The tilted head, the white robe. And that freezing, awful smell." About a week after Ami's incident, the clinic welcomed a new staff member. Dr. Niran Sukchai. A part-time visiting dermatologist from Bangkok, had just signed a contract with the clinic owner. He previously worked at a renowned aesthetic center in Chidlam and was highly skilled in laser skin care, particularly pigmentation correction. On his first day at work, Clara and Jasmine were the ones on duty. Their first impression of him, quiet, polite, and above all, light. Light in the way he moved, the way he spoke. And the way he observed everything around him, always as if deep in thought, his mind half here, half adrift in some other realm. That afternoon, the three of them sat down in the basement lounge for a light lunch. Ami was still on leave, so the room felt noticeably still. The conversation was casual at first, difficult clients. New acne treatment products, upcoming public holidays. But then, Dr. Niran broke the rhythm with an unexpected question. "Have any of you ever felt that something's not quite right here?" Clara and Jasmine exchanged glances, caught off guard. Jasmine laughed it off. "You mean, the AC's too cold? Or you think the place is haunted?" Dr. Niran didn't laugh. He simply shook his head gently and replied in a calm, steady voice. "Downstairs. Especially this lounge area. There's a heaviness. I felt it the first time I stepped in. It doesn't belong here." Clara said nothing. She didn't confirm it. But she didn't deny it either. Jasmine, even with her skeptical smirk, kept listening. Dr. Niran looked around the room slowly. Then continued, his voice now even lower. "I spent some time in a monastery near Chiang Mai. Places with imbalanced energy. I pick up on them easily. And this place. What's here isn't just a wandering soul. It's older. It's been here longer. And I think it's waking up." Clara narrowed her eyes. "What do you mean?" "Dar." Niran paused before answering. "I think something here was once bound. But now, it's no longer held back." No one said anything for the next few minutes. No more laughter. No clinking of utensils. The room felt like it had dropped a few degrees, even though the AC hadn't changed. As they left the room, Clara didn't speak. But her hand clenched slightly at her side. Because for the first time, someone else had finally said aloud what she had only dared to feel these past few weeks. That evening, Clara and Jasmine stayed late to assist with a few VIP clients. Dar. Niran was also on the night shift. After finishing the final treatment, the three of them gathered again in the basement lounge for a short break before heading home. A breeze from outside whistled through the glass vents. The ceiling fan turned slowly overhead, clicking rhythmically like a distant heartbeat. They sat in silence. No one spoke first. Then, Dr. Niran broke it. His voice was low, steady. As if he'd been preparing to say this all day. "I think it's time I tell you both something. Something that happened to me here. Just a few days ago." Clara and Jasmine looked up. They didn't interrupt. It was around noon. No clients. Just Ami and me, upstairs. I brought my handheld console, thought I'd pass some time. After lunch, I came down here, turned on the TV, and sat in that chair. He nodded toward the same massage chair Ami had collapsed in days earlier. I played for a bit, then suddenly felt overwhelmingly drowsy. Not tired. It was like something was draining my strength. My eyelids got heavy. My mind foggy. Then I fell asleep. But not really asleep. He closed his eyes for a moment, reliving it. I fell into a state. We call it limbo sleep in Thai. Conscious, but frozen. Eyes open. Ears hearing. But the body, paralyzed. Couldn't move. Couldn't breathe deeply. Couldn't scream. I lay there, alive, but like a corpse. Clara shivered. Then I heard a voice. A woman's voice, clear as day. Dr. Niren, clients here. Dr. Niren. Room 3. He opened his eyes. Looked straight at them. I was sure it was Ami's voice. But it wasn't right. It sounded warped. Like a recording, stuck on a loop. Then I saw her. A shadow forming across from the TV. A woman. Dar. Niren clenched his fist slightly. She started to dance. Slowly. Fluidly. Movements like a traditional Thai court dancer. But something was wrong. Each move, too bent, too long, unnatural. Her face was painted thick in white, like wax. Her eyes, hollow, black holes. And her lips, painted in a deep red that stretched grotesquely to the sides of her face. It wasn't a smile. It was a wound, forced to look like one. Clara swallowed hard. Jasmine stood up, clearly unsettled. She moved toward me. Still dancing. Still unblinking. And as she got closer, I saw her wrists. Bruised. As if bound tightly with rope. The scent from her. A mix of cheap perfume. And dried blood. And then, when her face was inches from mine, a hand touched my shoulder. And I woke up. The room fell into silence. Ami was standing next to me. She asked why I was frozen like that. Said she'd called my name multiple times, no response. Dr. Niren exhaled. I asked her. Was anyone else down here with me? She looked at me like I was crazy. Said, no. I just came down now. I thought you passed out. None of the three spoke after that. They didn't have to. Because they all understood. This wasn't coincidence anymore. Something inside this spa was starting to choose who it revealed itself to. One by one. After the conversation with Dr. Niren, Clara couldn't sleep a single minute that night. His words kept playing in her mind. Lee. The dancing woman. The smile split to the ears. The scent of cheap perfume and dried blood. All of it, aligned too perfectly with what she and Ami had both felt. There was no denying it anymore. Something was wrong with this place. The next morning, Clara arrived at the clinic much earlier than usual. The spa hadn't opened yet. No clients. No staff. Just her. She took the chance to go downstairs, to the lounge in the basement. But this time, she wasn't coming as a manager doing routine checks. This time, she was looking for answers. The lounge was silent enough for her to hear her own heartbeat. Clara didn't know exactly what she was searching for. Just a vague pull. A sense that something had been hidden in plain sight all along. She began inspecting everything. The TV cabinet. The framed photos, even the individual tiles on the floor. And then her eyes landed on a dusty corner behind the large massage chair. A spot rarely cleaned because of how bulky the furniture was. There, partially hidden, lay an old rug. Clara lifted it. Underneath, she found a small wooden hatch, slightly misaligned with the floor. She crouched down, gripped both sides, and pried it open. its weight stiff and dry, like it hadn't been touched in years. Beneath it was a shallow hollow, about 1/2 meter deep. Inside was something tightly wrapped in decaying red cloth. One side of the fabric had already torn, revealing part of a small porcelain statue, its white glaze yellowed with age. Clara stopped breathing. Her hands trembled as she pulled back the cloth. And what emerged nearly knocked her to her knees. A small Buddha statue, with no eyes. The sockets were never carved. As if someone had deliberately left it blind. Or worse, had wanted us to be blind to what it might have seen. Tucked beneath the statue, pressed into the folds of the cloth, was a tangled clump of long black hair. Alongside it were old Thai coins, scraps of silver foil, and a dried bloodstain, dark and crusted, as if decades old. Together, they formed a complete, offering bundle. Clara stood frozen, her pulse pounding in her ears. She had heard of it before, vaguely. In some spiritual traditions. A Buddha statue that hasn't been blessed, hasn't had its eyes opened by a monk, is considered spiritually hollow. And worse, can become a vessel. And now, Clara had seen it. Understood. This was the source. Something had once been bound inside that statue. And somehow, it had gotten out. Clara knew she couldn't keep this to herself. That evening, after the clinic had closed, she called Jasmine and Dr. Niren to the basement lounge. There, she told them everything. The hidden hatch under the rug. The eyeless statue. The blood. The coins. The hair. The offering. She wasn't going to hide it anymore. Every time they stayed silent, things only got worse. After seeing the statue, Dr. Niren stood quietly for a long time. He didn't touch it. He simply kept his distance, eyes fixed on the blank sockets carved into its face. Then, in a deep and almost reverent tone, he finally spoke. "I've seen offering bundles like this before. In a northeastern province of Thailand. They called it a common vessel, a container for a child spirit." Jasmine furrowed her brows. "But that's not a common thong, is it? It doesn't look like one." Dr. Niren kept his eyes on the statue. "No. This is something else. There are certain shamans who want stronger spirits. So instead of children, they bind young women. Women who died filled with rage. Or worse. Women sacrificed in rituals. They trap those souls. Seal them inside vessels like this." At first, she quietly contacted a former employee. A girl who had abruptly quit after barely 2 weeks at the spa. After some hesitant back and forth, the woman confirmed everything. The clinic used to have a different owner. A man from Thailand. Who ran multiple massage parlors and spas across the region. But only this spa had flourished abnormally fast. People whispered that he'd sought favors from a powerful shaman in Loei. A man known for spirit binding, blessed amulets, and raising common thong to attract wealth. The previous owner often brought back strange artifacts from Thailand. He was especially protective of one thing. The eyeless Buddha in the staff lounge. No one was allowed to touch it. No cleaning. No moving. Once, a cleaner accidentally swept against it. The next day, she fell and broke her arm. After that, no one dared to go near. And then, one day, the owner went bankrupt. Without warning. The spa closed. Staff scattered. Just a few months later, the clinic reopened under new ownership. No one asked where the old boss had gone. No one cared. But the statue remained. No one cleaned it. No one removed it. It stayed. Clara understood now. The spirit in that statue hadn't come here because of the spa. It was already here. And it had simply been waiting for someone to slip up, so it could finally get out. It was Dr. Nyren who first suggested performing a cleansing ritual. Not an exorcism or a deep spiritual banishment. He wasn't a monk anymore. And certainly not a shaman. But from his time at Wat Sri Temple in Chiang Mai, he'd learned a basic rite. A way to seal leaking energies. A temporary ward to suppress whatever was seeping through the cracks. Clara agreed. They chose to carry it out late at night. After the spa had closed. When there were no clients. No humming machines. No scent of serum in the air. The ritual was to be held in the basement lounge, where the statue had been discovered. Only 3 people were present, Clara, Jasmine, and Dr. Nyren. Ami, after her sleep paralysis episode, had taken a leave of absence. She hadn't dared return. The room was cleaned. The lights turned off. Only a single white candle and 3 Thai incense sticks remained lit. Dr. Nyren set out a small ceremonial tray. A bowl of uncooked rice. Holy water infused with lemongrass. A few stalks of citronella. And a strip of faded red cloth. All placed around the eyeless statue. He said nothing. He simply closed his eyes and began chanting softly in Pali. At first, nothing happened. Just the smell of incense. The hum of the ventilation fan. And the soft flicker of candlelight. But then, every light in the spa went out. At once. Clara flinched and turned toward the stairs. Jasmine shot to her feet. The candle still burned. But its flame began to flicker violently. Like something was about to snuff it out. From upstairs. A rhythmic click, 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 echoed. The sound of light switches toggling themselves. Then, all the security cameras turned on. The computer monitor at the reception desk, which Clara had forgotten to power down, suddenly lit up. Each feed displayed a different room. Treatment areas, hallways, the front lobby. And in every feed, a woman in a white spa robe was sitting or standing motionless, centered perfectly in the frame. Every angle. Every room. One per camera. None of them moved. None of them spoke. They all smiled. Jasmine screamed. She stared at one particular feed, treatment room 3. The woman inside had no eyes. Just 2 dark, empty sockets. But still smiling. Suddenly, the TV in the basement lounge turned on by itself. No remote. No input. And instead of a logo or startup screen, it showed a live feed. A reflection of the exact room they were standing in. As if someone else was filming them from the shadows. Then came the laughter. Not from the TV. Not from any speakers. From the walls. From all directions. Clara stood frozen. Jasmine began to tremble. Her lips twitching, slowly pulling into a smile. As if someone were stretching them by hand. She gasped, stumbling backward. Her fists clenched, her body trembling. Then, she laughed. At first, a dry chuckle. Then it warped into a shrill, choking cackle that sounded like it came from a crushed throat. "It's inside me," Jasmine wheezed. Her eyes rolled back. Her body convulsing. Dr. Nyren grabbed the bowl of lemongrass water and smashed it to the floor, shouting a forbidden mantra 3 times. The candle snuffed out instantly, and everything fell into darkness. When the power returned, Jasmine had collapsed. The TV was blank. The security monitors were silent. And the statue was gone. The next morning, the spa closed temporarily due to technical issues. All client appointments for the next 2 weeks were cancelled. No one questioned it. No one complained. Regulars simply rebooked at other branches. And those who'd felt the strange energy here probably understood. Jasmine never came back. She took indefinite leave. Then cut all contact. Text messages went unanswered. Phone calls rang out. Some said she returned to Malaysia to stay with her mother. Others whispered she was hospitalized for psychiatric care. No one knew for sure. As for Clara, she left the beauty industry altogether. She quietly packed her things, erased her records from the system, and submitted her resignation via email. With a single line. "Thank you for the opportunity. But I believe it's time I leave this place. For good." 1 week later, she left Singapore. Moved to Johor Bahru to live with her sister. Took a job at a small logistics firm. No one ever saw her in a spa again. Dr. Niran, after the failed ritual, disappeared without a word. No goodbye. No farewell note. He simply returned his staff access card and vanished. The spa remained closed indefinitely. Former employees drifted away. No one came back. Even the spa owner could no longer be reached. Emails bounced. Phone numbers disconnected. No one took responsibility. And no one demanded answers. They all just wanted to forget. Only the building remained silent as ever. The front glass sealed shut. Windows papered over. No one inside. But anyone who happened to pass by at night, if they stood still enough and listened closely, they might still feel something. The angle was from treatment room 3, long since abandoned. But in the footage, each treatment bed had a woman sitting upright, all dressed in white spa robes. Long black hair. Heads tilted. The eyeless Buddha statue was never found. And the twisted laughter? It still echoes sometimes. When night falls over Tanjong Pagar. If you've stayed with me until the very end, I just want to say one thing: thank you. Thank you for taking the time to listen, not just to a story about a spa, or a statue, or the things caught on camera, but to a journey into the forgotten. You see, sometimes the scariest thing isn't the ghost itself. It's the things we thought we buried. They weren't weak. They were just too close to something no one wanted to face. Something that had once been sealed away, but was never truly released. And maybe you know that feeling too. If you enjoy stories that blend spiritual chills with emotional depth, please like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss a single story. I post new tales every week. They might be dreams, or memories that were never supposed to be remembered. I'll see you in the next story.